Hey! Hi. Welcome, watch freaks.
We're back.
We are back. Another episode of The Trading Desk with me, Joshua Thanos, and my good friend,
Jason
Main. How's that?
Is this like episode 65 or 75 or what
Yeah,
was?
we're about done with these. No, but yeah, so it is. We're deep in it, and today's an exciting day for us because we get to talk about what everyone else has been talking about ad nauseum.
Lack thereof talking about.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess.
All right,
We'll
so-
stick around for the show and we'll see.
Yeah, man. So Jason, I know you had to run solo last week. Sorry for abandoning you.
Little
Palm trees were calling.
yeah, no, it was okay.
Yeah.
Maybe the shortest show
Yeah, it was
that's
like
existed on this
18
channel.
minutes.
It's like 18 minutes.
There you go.
I was looking for some feedback from the chat. Wasn't getting any love.
Nice.
Pulled the ripcord. You know.
Gotcha. Well, I didn't watch it, so don't worry.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting week, and we're gonna get right into it. So
Yeah,
let's stick to the script in one sense, and let's do some wrist shots. J-Bone, what do you got on the wrist there?
You guys know what that is? For the podcast crew, that's the Rolex ceramic non-date 114060.
Now,
With all
discontinued
of its-
watch now, right, Jason?
Not quite. With all of its beautiful wear marks and scratches, I love this thing. Non-date, just cleaner dial. Certainly a good everyday type of watch. And again, I've said it before, if you're only going to own one Rolex, it's got to be a sub. I think it's certainly iconic. So Josh needs one, I think.
Yeah, I need to add another Rolex to the collection. So my watch worth well more than Jason's watch.
Fighting
So-
words right there.
Yeah, with all the hype of Rolex and Patek and buying watches speculatively to sell them over lists and all that, I decided this week I was going to wear probably my least valuable in terms of dollars watch, and that's my Bell & Ross BR123. I think this is the vintage version. I don't know, man. I barely wear this thing, but I realized that the reason why it's in my watch box is because it's a great watch. Highly visible, highly legible. I have it on a Zulu strap. And it's awesome. It's like worth, I don't know, $1,000 maybe, and I really like it. So there you go, 43 millimeters. Yeah. It's got a date, 3-hander with a date, and it has what looks like a turning bezel, but it doesn't move. Still love it.
It's a clean watch. I like, we both like Bell & Ross, and I think
I have two Bell & Ross.
They offer a good bang for the buck.
You don't have any Bell & Ross. You need to get the diver like I have.
Yeah, not anymore. I've had two or three over the years, but just, but good watches. Always liked them. Actually, we'll talk about a few. They released some stuff.
Did they?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice. All right, cool, man. So today's show, we're going to skip this or that. Sorry. If you guys wanted to play along, you can just decide this or that between Jason and I if you like in the chat box. Yeah, you can do. It's awkward.
It's a good thing there's not a poll for that, because that would hurt your feelings.
I don't know, Jay. I don't know. I think some people like me, even though you don't. Some people like me.
I don't know. What's this fake news that you're spewing over here?
Yeah, wow. So today we want to talk about the new releases, but not just what's been released, how it's going to affect the watch market, because that's what we do. We buy and sell watches for a living. That's how we pay for all these super fancy watches that we have, right?
Super fancy.
Yeah. So let's start with what everyone wants to talk about. It's the Rolex. So Rolex had a quite a few releases. Well, that's actually not true. So Rolex came out the gate, and what most people are saying kind of flopped. But I have a different view on that. Mm-hmm. So quick rundown. The only truly new model from scratch that they came out with was the 42 Yacht-Master. So that's something that did not exist before. It's not like they added a metal, changed the metal. Totally new model. So basically this is the Oyster Flex Yacht-Master in rose gold, just in white gold, and a 42 millimeter. Interesting introduction. We'll save my opinions and your opinions on that next. So the next one that they released, if you go to their website, you can check out all these watches if you want to follow along, is they made a two-tone 43 millimeter Sea Dweller. Also interesting.
For whom, I am not sure.
Not for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody who wants to buy that watch, and I'm sure it'll be somewhat tough to get. I don't know what the allocations are going to be for these watches, so we'll see if that's a watch that ever goes over list. If I have to make a guess, which we're going to save this till after we introduce all of them, I would guess not. So the most important, I guess, release is going to be the new Batman, the Jubilee Batman. Which, by the way, if I was Batman, I don't think I'd wear this watch on a Jubilee.
I wouldn't say the most important. I would argue that the next one after this is the most important release.
Which one's that?
That watch right there. The Date 836.
So the new Date 836 with all the different dials. They have Fume dials. They have an array of different dials for the Date 836. They also released the Date Just 36 with in steel, all steel, with the Oyster bracelet, which they didn't have before. I think that is an important release.
Yeah.
Not for the market, but for people actually wearing the watch. I think that's something that
it fills a weird lacking space that's been in the, in the lineup.
That watch belongs on a Jubilee. All right, so those are the new watches. So I would say, okay, first impressions, Jason, about these new releases.
So,
good or bad?
Lackluster,
Sure.
I would say. Uninspired, I've heard people say.
Okay.
Little disappointing. I think that everybody was expecting like hot fire, and they really let a lot of, it's almost a little phoned in, it feels like.
Okay.
And I feel like what they were trying to do was cool things down.
Right.
Instead, they just poured a whole heap of gas on the stuff that's already hot. Because now everybody's going to go after the stuff they already can't get. Because, So, I don't know. The Yacht-Master 42 is nice. I like it. I would... If
the watch itself, yeah.
If it was steel, I'd probably be interested in putting one on my wrist to see if it fit what I would want.
Sure.
The size is definitely appropriate. In white gold, it's definitely out of the question for me, because if I was going to buy a white gold watch, we'll talk about that later. But it wouldn't be this.
So $27,000 for that watch.
It's
you think that makes sense?
Aspirational to begin. I mean, it's
well. So rose gold, that watch is what, a $24,000 retail and 40. So now 42, $27,000. So what's interesting is I believe for the white gold Daytona, which is a complication on a bracelet, you're paying low 30s. I think it was a 32, 34,000 retail, could be less, 31. I know yellow gold is about 31. So so just for a few $1,000s more, you get a full gold bracelet, which if you were to buy that separately, it's going to cost you $10,000.
Right.
So value play, strange. So my assessment of what Rolex did here is that they're kind of clearing things out. They're priming for next year and then the year after that. I think that if I have to guess, because I'm not in the meetings, they are a little bit uncomfortable with the demand on their brand. They're not, they're a nonprofit, which whatever that means, but they're not looking to grow exponentially every year. They're trying to grow at a certain amount, right? So this is a couple years ago, like 2 years ago, this became more prevalent when you realize that normally they slow down distribution towards the end of the year.
Like November,
Like November, right? And then
it happened in October,
right? And then
November,
that was 2 years ago. Last year was like September.
Yeah.
So demand is just insane for Rolex across the board, and you're seeing watches selling for more than they ever have. Wait lists that are untenable, and you have it puts a lot of pressure on the dealer network. And I think that while some people might look at it like, oh wow, Rolex is doing great, from their brand perspective, listen, first of all, if you want a Rolex, you can get a Rolex from a retailer. If you want a Rolex, the ones you can't get, stainless steel sport watches across the board. So it's not like you can get a Ladies' Datejust. You can get a gold Submariner. You can get a gold GMT, which has now been discontinued, which we'll talk about in a second. So it's not like you can't get a Rolex. You just can't get the Rolexes that people are chasing, which all happen to be stainless steel. So I think there'll have to be a tipping point eventually, and I think Rolex is possibly conscious of this. So what this tells me is that, because they could have released a Oyster Coke GMT, would have been insane. They could have released an Oyster Flex Submariner, which I think would have been in steel, which would have been very well received. I think there are so many. New Mill Gauss would have been a watch that would have been really, really hot. There's a lot of watches that they could have released that would have just increased demand across the board from speculators and others, and people who actually want to wear the watch. They didn't do that, and I think that everybody outside, from looking at it from a buyer's perspective, or somebody who is looking forward to Rolex releasing just the hottest fire, look at it and say, well, Rolex let us down. But I think that this was
I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I feel like there should have been
something.
one watch, and it's not that Batman. Like, I just feel like it hit the mark. There should have just been one watch, and then you could have done the 36-day date. You could have done the 36-day just. But there should have been one hot watch, as there should be at every show, in my opinion. And I understand, like, setting the foreground for the next 2 years and making sure that, you kind of slow things down a little bit. But you don't slam on the brakes. Like,
you think that's what this is?
I think that...
I would disagree.
I think that, we're already seeing, like, the stuff that was discontinued that's already hot because you can't get it is now discontinued, and it's just going to keep escalating. So, and we'll talk about that.
But. So, okay, let's talk about that. So, number one, I think that this is a conscious tapping of the brakes. Jason's opinion, slamming on the brakes. But either way, I think in the end, what this does is, overall, what I think this will do is...
normalize a little bit.
I think it'll hopefully normalize things. But in the short term right now, so let's talk about things that you can't get new through retailers now. So there's no more Oyster stainless steel Oyster GMTs. It doesn't exist.
Right.
The black dial, black bezel, original Oyster ceramic Oyster GMT, gone. Okay.
Which it was time for because it was the oldest.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was the first one I think that made it to a ceramic bezel, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but the Batman on Oyster, gone. And for all those people thinking, well, all smart Rolex, I'll just put an Oyster bracelet on the current Jubilee Batman. You can't do that. They did scale down the lugs. So it's not...
there are people... Yeah, so we talked about that.
There's aftermarket companies that allow you
ways
to
to
do
get
so.
around that, but
you can't
for the
do
most
it.
part, yeah, you can't just... So
it's not easy. Well, you don't see Pepsis on Oysters.
Yeah, I don't think it...
It's been out for a year.
Works.
You don't see it.
I don't know if there's aftermarket companies putting the less desirable bracelet on... The idea is that you can put a Jubilee on.
I'm saying steel Pepsis on Jubilee. You don't see those on Oysters. You don't see people swapping those bracelets. I haven't seen it. Have you? No. I mean, so it looks like that. If you want to buy a new Batman now, you got to buy it on a Jubilee. So what does that mean for the watches that people already have in their collection? So Batman's Oyster Batman goes up or goes down right now?
Goes up 100%.
I think it's already gone up.
It continues to go up.
But I've heard dealers, like small time dealers, guys who are fighting for inventory, who pay the last dollar, who are looking to make a few $100s on a flip, are paying $14,000 right now, and I think that'll go up. If I have to make a prediction in the next 2 weeks, you're going to see Oyster Batman's like $18,000 on the retail side. So what people are willing to pay to get them to wear them. Yeah, it's crazy. Is that watch worth $18,000?
Absolutely not.
No, but
I mean the market says it is.
Right.
But
dollars and
I
cents
think in a normalized. I mean, I love the watch at $12,000 in a normalized market.
Sure.
What's your time worth?
Right.
If you want the
That's
watch and you're not going to wait.
Well, there's no more waiting.
Well, I mean, you wait for the right deal. I mean, it's just the market's going to go crazy. I think that when the Jubilees start to hit, they're gonna obviously they're gonna go over retail. They're gonna sell really well. People are gonna run to the wait list for them. But what you're gonna end up seeing probably in the first year, maybe year and a half, is the Oysters outperform the new Jubilees.
I think that there's a good possibility that'll happen. Obviously, we're not going to guarantee anything, so don't make your purchasing decisions based on what we say. But if I had to bet, that's what I would do. Yeah. I'd put my money on an Oyster Batman in the next year, selling for above or at least even with the new Jubilee. But we'll see what happens. I think that the Oyster has more mass appeal than a Jubilee bracelet just across the board. And some people are saying that the GMT is meant to be on the Jubilee, while in the past it was on a Jubilee. The very first GMTs were on an Oyster bracelet. There's no question about that. Check your history. So while it's nice, and I think it would be a good option to have both, and that would certainly calm down things. If it was me, if the idea was to slow down some of the demand, right? I would release the Batman. I would add it. So, Batman on a Jubilee added to the selection or the collection, not replacing.
Here's one thing that foolproof it does slow down, and that's the market on the
Pepsi. I think so,
because this watch is much better than a Pepsi.
I don't know much, but I would say it's better.
Hands down, color combo. Okay. I like it much better.
Yeah,
I've told we've said we were disappointed. Or I've said I was disappointed. I think you agree
Right.
with the color selection on the Pepsi. And,
Though they did improve that though.
Yeah. So, but I mean, black and blue, man.
No, black and blue. So if we're thinking about mass appeal, right? I feel like the black and blue is certainly a watch that will be more popular than the Pepsi. Though the Pepsi does it brings more history, right? When you buy that watch, you're buying something that's existed before in the past. So there's a little bit of that. But yeah, I think just if you ask just a regular guy on the street, you showed him both watches, I think the black and the blue is probably going to be more appealing. So yeah, I think that the Pepsi goes down, and I think we've already noticed the Pepsi drop a bit. It's still over list. I mean, it's only a $9,200 watch, which is funny when you say only, because 3 or 4 years ago we would be talking about like Batmans were selling for below list. It was an $8,550 retail or $8,950 retail. Would sell pre-owned for $7,000, which was really, really good for that market. You know, dealers would pay 5 to 6, sell it for 6 to 7. Like that was easy and it made sense. Now it's not the case. So, Oyster Batmans, we believe, going up. What about? Well, let's stay with the GMTs. So now another watch that is the all black GMT goes up immediately.
Yeah, it's already
It's already gone up. I mean, they were on their way up. People were paying 95, close to 10. Now I think that watch goes over 10. I think it settles. If I have to guess, probably in the low teens.
Yeah.
It's going to be a $12,000 watch as long as the watch market is in the state as it is now. I can't imagine it would go more than that. If it does, I guess whatever. But all black ceramic GMTs, and then maybe you're going to see different variations. So like maybe the first year might be worth more. First year with stickers, so you're going to see just like what happened with the Daytonas, the all steel Daytonas that shot up last year. People are paying attention to discontinued steel Rolexes. So the two-tone yellow gold GMT, right? So the steel and yellow gold, the roll sort, it's been discontinued. That one will have a little bit of a bump as well. I think that watch ends up selling at or just below list.
Yeah, I agree with you. Considering that the only thing that it really had competition with was the two-tone sub, which still exists. Now you're looking at an advantage that it's been discontinued. So if you were between the two, now that's been discontinued, it might make it more appealing.
Right, and you were talking me out of it, you bastard.
Screwed
me over, Jay. I hate you, but yeah, I was actually
get one.
Well, now it's too late, Jason.
It's never too late.
All right. So yeah, two-tone yellow gold GMT discontinued. Also, all yellow gold GMT with a green dial or black dial completely discontinued as well.
I like that watch.
Yeah, I mean, the green dial is fantastic. It's never been a super strong performer in terms of market price, so you should see some sort of small bump in that. I mean, you are seeing a bump on precious metal sport models, but so we'll see. Yellow gold is a little tough because not everybody can or wants to wear yellow gold. So I'll reserve my judgment for what's going to happen with that. But the yellow gold GMT discontinued. So what do you think is going to happen to the Hulk, which has not been discontinued? Nothing happened with the Hulk.
It's still highly sought after. They're still not delivering them, like people would want. They can't meet the demand. I think it goes down a little bit. I don't think it takes a market dive.
So they were selling.
It's still one of the more sought after Submariner steel pieces. So
they were selling about 2 weeks ago for about $13,500.
Yeah, I think
you think it stays there?
I think it's probably like a 12.5, 13 now.
Retail.
Yeah.
So wholesale, dealers are going to pay like 12, 11.5, 12.
Probably something like that.
Okay, we'll see what happens. So Hulk not discontinued. We assume it'll slow down a little bit. Pepsi slows down because of the release of the new Batman, which we think is a better watch. And the biggest winner here would be the Oyster Batman.
Yes.
The Oyster Batman and the all black GMT on the Oyster.
Correct.
All right. So if you want an Oyster bracelet on a sport model Rolex, you got to look at a Daytona, well over list, or a Submariner. Right? What am I missing? Anything else?
No, it's
Explorer 2, which nothing happened with those either.
Right. And then I think the biggest of what they dropped, the biggest thing that had me scratching my head was that two-tone 43.
Yeah, the two-tone 43 is bizarre. I don't really have an opinion on it yet. Other than I don't think you'll ever see that over list. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it being super appealing. I'm trying to think of who would want to buy that watch. I mean, I guess if you it's just a guy who said, hey, man, I really love that two-tone Submariner. It's just too small for me. But I don't think that's not a huge segment of the market. But if you look, I mean, the reason why they made it, I guess, is because of there was some history. Rolex Passion Report posted on Instagram some sort of
watch that vaguely pulls some DNA from.
Right. So whatever. I mean, listen, it's not Rolex's job to make watches that go over retail, right? That's not their job or mentality. They're making watches along their path. So I assume they have a plan. If they don't,
so I would say that their job is rounding out the line to accept as much business as possible, right? Like rounding out the line to make a watch for everybody. That's my thing. So like, if you create a complete line, I think that's where you try and find these. That's why they go out of their way to discontinue some pieces, bring other pieces. They're trying to fit the market. That two-tone 43 just for me is a weird.
I don't know where it goes. It's strange.
But anyways,
all right. So that's our assessment of Rolex. If you own an Oyster Batman, you're making some money. If you own a Hulk, you've already made some money. If you own Daytonas are still
Black
strong.
Steel. Actually, I would argue that the all black GMT is the real winner if you own one of those because you own it for it's gone up the most from what you would have entered in. Yeah, because you're owning that way less than you are a Batman to begin with.
Right. So dollars and cents in it, that might end up going up more. And if people discover different variations throughout the years that they weren't paying attention to in the past, now people are just going to start looking for those things. So maybe there was some dial writing that nobody noticed before that now is whatever it may be. So we'll see what happens with those watches. All right. So Rolex took the year off, we can say, right? Whether purposely or not, they kind of took the year off.
Yeah.
No blockbusters, nothing life-changing. Patek, on the other hand, did some cool things.
Patek came out with some cool stuff.
What's your new favorite Patek?
So I have to say, I mean, the 5168 khaki is got to be my favorite pick. I love that color on pretty much everything. I love that watch. I've always liked the Aquanaut more than Nautilus for years and years, even before the Nautilus became unobtainium. I've always liked the Aquanaut better. I wish this was steel. If it was steel, I'd be trying to get one. But white gold is just a little unobtainable for me at this point and wouldn't be, how should we say, financially responsible with myself. But
you've been making some purchases lately.
It's gorgeous.
The watch is nice.
I got to see it in person. It's probably the only Patek that I'm like, I need to put this on my wrist.
Yeah.
But
so it's 42 millimeters, which is that fits your profile there. It's your favorite color.
Yep.
Right, the OD green.
Yeah. So it looks a little. The photos of it look a little light. I think from the photos I saw in real world. From George and everybody in Switzerland, it looks a little darker in real life, so I'm excited about that. Yeah.
We can tell. Look at the excitement on his face, guys.
The only thing that would make this
would
make this
amazing
better is if it had tropical numbers. Like if it had a little bit of a
numbers?
Like a slight patina to the numbers, like a tan or a khaki.
I'm trying to think. I was thinking about that earlier. Is there a watch that Patek makes with like a faux patina? I don't think they do that. That's not something they do.
I want a little bit of Panerai in there.
Well, you'll never see that. Though this is probably the closest thing to a Panerai you can find besides, because the other, like the Pilot watches are not Panerai. So there you go. This is a large dive watch, large legible dive watch from.
I dig it.
Yeah, it's cool.
And if you look at the macro shots on the dial, there's some texture to the dial. It's really pretty.
It sounds like you're in love, Jay.
Yeah.
$40,000 retail price. What do you think this trades for? So. The 5168 now is a very expensive watch. I think it's like double retail as well.
Yeah, I think right out of the bat, this is a $60,000 watch.
60,000?
Yeah,
I think you might be aiming low there, but with at least 60 grand for sure. Fantastic, and I think it might. So the 5168 blue was what, a 1 year release,
right?
So this, I have to assume, will probably be the same. It's nice. I think that this is a nice way to mix up the lines. This helps with driving a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? It gives attention to the brand, but like this is really an unattainable watch. If you're just a casual watch buyer, you can't get this watch. You have to be a long-standing customer with a Patek dealer in order to get your hands on a watch like this at or near retail. So that's the best release I think so far of Basel in general.
Yeah.
It's also a watch you can't get. So I'd say the other awesome release is the redo of the 5235. So 5235G came out with 2011.
Right. Yeah.
Barely made any of them. They had trouble making the movements. People were buying them as investments. Then all of a sudden they figured out how to make it, made a ton, and killed the market on the watch. People were buying it low. Then they discontinued it, which helped solidify the market. And now they released it in rose gold, which I think is a prettier watch.
I think so.
It's a completely different feeling, right?
It makes sense with the dial selection.
Sure.
And the rose gold. I think it's handsome. I've always liked the watch. I think it's got a really clean dial layout. That's one of the things that's always attracted me to it.
Sure.
But I think it's a good pickup.
It's funk, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit out of the norm, for them.
It's an aggressive piece. It has, a lot of fantastic technology in that movement. They've obviously mastered the movement, so now they're going to be adding it. So I wonder if this will be, if they're going to make a full line of these. Maybe they make a platinum one. Maybe they do another white gold and a different dial. We'll see what happens with this. In terms of the market on this watch, so I think 5235G being discontinued right now, the market is solidified. I don't see it going up right now, but it certainly is holding on that watch. And this, unlike the 5524 Rose, which kind of, it's a Patek, so it didn't flop, but under Patek standards, it's somewhat flop. Like, people didn't really like it. I think this is a watch that people will like and possibly like it better than the 5235G.
I think it's a more wearable watch.
Possibly,
day in, day out.
Steel model that they came out with, the 5212, the weekly calendar, which in pictures looks like a watch from a different brand.
Yep.
Won't you elaborate on your opinion?
No.
So we're going to be nice, but it at first it was a very strange looking watch, out of character for Patek, but they've been doing these types of watches for the last few years. And so it's a little bit more acceptable. Didn't really like it. My first impression was our buddy George Mayer, though, who's in Switzerland, posted a wrist shot, and I really like it on the wrist. I think it's an interesting piece. I think without a doubt this watch will be going over list. It's a steel. Yeah. It's a steel Patek. It's not a sport watch. This is a steel dress watch from Patek. Which, name another steel dress watch from Patek.
It's interesting. I don't know. It's one of those ones I'd have to see in person.
Sure.
Yeah, like you were saying, it's odd. So when I first saw the picture, I thought of two watch brands right away that have something that looks similar to this, and both of them are under $2,000. So,
all right.
But
those markets aren't crossing, so people are not going to pass on this to get that.
But
you're talking about.
I don't know that this watch is going to go over retail, right?
Oh, without a doubt. So it's a $33,000 list. I think it's a $50,000 watch.
Okay, so if you're spending over retail, right? You're paying double retail, let's call it, for a stainless steel Patek. You're the type of guy that's like trying to hunt down a 5711.
Right, speculator.
You're not a guy that's trying to hunt down a
You might not
piece.
actually like the watch, the watch wears. And
I don't think the guy that's paying the money for that is the Patek guy. I think it's a speculator guy.
Maybe.
So
I think the fact that it's stainless steel is what really makes the difference there. And then, let's see here.
The 5078G, right? The Grand Comp, the white gold.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that's like, I think it's gorgeous.
It's okay.
I like the dial.
I don't really have an opinion.
It's different enough. I think it's a cool piece. The story behind that watch is all in the case back. It's all in that movement, the minute repeater, the micro rotor, and the dial's gorgeous, but it makes no substitute for when you turn the watch over. It's extremely pretty.
Yeah. So the
there's a couple other
5520P,
a
watch that Jason is in love with.
That's questionable. I think there are some questionable choices here. I think the complication, there's a lot to be said for that. I don't agree with. I don't know. I don't like all the pushers. I think the watch is, for lack of a better term, ugly.
Yeah.
There's
people
billboards.
thought about that as soon as they released this case. People have been saying that.
But so the thing is, like, there's billboards on the pushers, like the actual, like the bell for, they tell you what the pusher is on the side of it. It's just, it's weird. It's
overbearing.
Yeah, I don't care.
It's also very expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
$26,000 retail. I think this might be an application piece as well. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask George when he gets back. All right, so that's kind of the rundown. Oh, sorry, no, it's not. The last one that we want to talk about, the one that I like probably the best because I like the Aquanaut, but so the 5170G is now no longer around. They got a 5172.
Right.
White gold chronograph, and so basically they took the 5960 pushers and put it on the 5170.
Right.
I think it's fantastic.
Watch is cool.
I think it's beautiful. Blue dial, white gold. Price point $73,000, which I guess is in line with a white gold chronograph from Patek. I think at first this might go up over retail. I think it depends on availability on this watch, whether or not it's going to go up or down. But this could be a sleeper. This could be a watch that out the gate goes a little over, ends up coming down, and then once they discontinue it like 2 years, 24 months from now, then it ends up being like a $100,000 watch or something.
Did you see that the full diamond out 24?
Patek 24?
Rose gold. Yeah, the new 24.
If I did, I blocked it out of my memory.
Wow. It's
with the
7300.
new automatic?
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. That's a bust down.
Yeah.
Patek said, "Thank you, all you rappers out there, for making us more famous. Here's a watch for you." Because, by the way, I can see, like,
You see a guy wearing that?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt I can. What's the rapper, local rapper here?
Lil Uzi?
Lil Uzi Vert should be wearing this watch, by the way, because this is now clearly a unisex watch. 36 millimeter, why not? Bust down Patek.
Factory.
There we go. No baguettes. So this is just mostly pave.
So, but for those of you that, I'm sure you guys are following this, but there's, what was it, like 12 releases?
Yep.
I think. Maybe even more than that. It's like 15. I don't know. It's crazy. And considering what the lack of noise that was made by pretty much every other brand, Patek released, like 15 SKUs. It's unheard of.
Well,
it's
completely
nuts.
new models, and then did some really hot. So what people kind of wanted from Rolex is what Patek gave us, I think, or something close. But overall, so far, Baselworld has been pretty slow. I mean, we're still waiting to hear from Omega. Maybe they forgot it was this week.
They're gonna do.
If I have to make a guess, let me think here. Hold on. Speedmaster. Hold on one second.
Well, you saw the all gold Speedmaster.
Seamaster. Some sort of Aquaterra that may not be that popular. There you go. Yes, I did see the re-edition.
That was pretty cool.
I mean, it's a nice watch, but it's
stupid expensive.
Yeah, and like I think like if nothing else, it just makes the original version more popular. All right, so honorable mentions. Overall, nothing life-changing from Rolex. Steel GMTs going up in value, discontinued ones, and then everything else just kind of staying the same.
Sure.
Patek, still Patek. Nothing crazy to report in terms of value. If you have any of these watches, so I think a 5168 blue might go up in value. If you have one of those, it might hold on to it for another year or so, it might go up. But, 5726 now is a blue dial. I don't think that just makes that watch more popular. I don't think it does too much to change the market. That's been just trending up in steel Nautiluses, right? So honorable mentions, watches that you can certainly order and get pretty quickly. 2. What do you got?
So my two, I guess, favorite honorable mentions or afterthought brands are the I love the Octo Finissimo.
Yes, you do.
That came out in a chronograph, which is officially the thinnest chronograph.
Everybody's been asking for that, Jason.
The watch is awesome, though.
I mean, it's okay.
I mean, it's awesome.
I don't know.
There was a limited edition one released, and then there was the general release. I think both watches are special.
If you are really into thin watches, either get a Piaget or a Bulgari, it seems like.
I mean, the Bulgari is fantastic. So just because you don't like it doesn't mean.
I don't not like it. I just don't have an opinion. I don't really care about it.
The other piece that I'm actually surprised me. I'm excited to see it is the new tag, the Altavia, with the new ceramic cap or sapphire cap bezels and texture dials. The watch is actually pretty clean. Yeah, and it comes in a couple different flavors. Yeah. I wish the green one came in something other than bronze, but I'll take what I can get, I guess.
Those are cool. What's the retail price on those tags?
I think they're like $4-ish.
Yeah, so something different, an entry-level watch from an entry-level brand.
This is a fantastic release to compete with like the likes of Oris and, sub $2,000 brands that are killing it right now. For Tag to get back at Tudor and Oris and, combat the Longines and those like sub $2,000 watches. I think this is a great, it's a Solita movement, which is a questionable choice, but I guess they're trying to keep the price point down. But overall, I mean, it's a cool looking watch for not a lot of money. So
It's a Tag Heuer 50 Fathoms now, right?
yeah, something like that.
Which listen, I like it. I think the styling is good. I like to see it on the wrist. It's definitely like kind of like a little beater watch you can keep in your collection, or it's a good way to get you into watches. Nice watch.
Give it 2 years and you'll be able to buy one.
How do you feel about
12
Tudor's
months.
releases, Jay?
I am very mad that I didn't get a green Pelagos or any new Pelagos.
Yeah. Or a new Tudor sub.
Yeah, no Tudor sub.
What we all thought the Tudor sub was is now this something called a Black Bay P01.
I think you mean POS.
It says one here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's questionable release. I mean, I know it harkens back to like a direct release of the the pre-production type pieces.
Some sort of prototype.
Yeah, it's weird to say the least. It reminds
So
me.
Seiko makes a watch just like this, right?
So,
for like $350.
Yeah, it's a Seiko / Jar Perigo like Hawk.
It's a Seahawk.
Yeah, it's a 4 o'clock crown Seiko SKX case. It's just completely more expensive. I don't know. It's a weird watch. It's got these
with the
lugs,
dude?
so the lugs lift up, which locks out the bezel from rotating.
That's gonna be
what
fun
that
to
does
play
is
with.
it means that you can't, like, when you go to change the strap on that watch to make it look appealing, all that stuff stays on the watch. The strap changes at the bottom of the lug, so it's not like you could take those lugs off. They're integral to the case.
Right.
So I don't know. I haven't seen a lot.
It's gonna be fun to clean skin gunk out of those.
I haven't seen a lot of support for this watch. A lot of people are hating on it. I think it's, to be fair,
Well, it's
I
ugly.
think it's a watch. Yeah, it's ugly. I think it's a watch.
Ugly watches do sell though.
Here's the thing. I think it's a watch that's fun to hate on because it is ugly. But once it's in the case and you're getting, people are warming up to it and put it on their wrist, I feel like it might be better on the wrist. So I'm not too hopeful, but
Yeah, let's reserve our judgment because we kind of like Tudor. We'd hate to start hating Tudor because of something like this.
So the Pelagos has been out for a while. I think it needed a refresh. Maybe next year we'll get one.
Sure.
I'm really surprised with all the trolling they were doing with everybody with the Submariner that they didn't do one. Same thing with Rolex. They were trolling everybody with the Milgauss drops, and nothing came of that. So maybe next year. I know that's the anniversary year.
Yep. It's one of the anniversary years. I feel like every year is an anniversary year for something now.
We'll see.
All right.
I think Seiko killed it.
So yeah, Grand Seiko is interesting. So I think
Not even Grand, just Seiko in general. Like, there were tons of regular Seiko drops. There were tons of Grand Seiko drops.
Sure.
I think as they're technically two different companies now.
But
as a whole, I think they may have had like the most successful Basel.
maybe.
Yeah.
Well, Tim just did a live show about them, and I think that what they're doing with Grand Seiko, they're trying to go a little bit more upmarket. They have $10,000, time and date watches, which we'll see what happens with those. But I think that they're trying to compete with the Breitlings. I think that's where they're trying to get to. Like they're trying to get.
I don't know that there's any real competition there. Seiko and the Grand Seikos, in my opinion, are a far superior piece.
Yeah, I guess, but I think that
They're trying to get competition in terms of market share.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's going to take a while for Grand Seiko to have luxury watch cachet because it still says Seiko, and people for the last however many years, 30 years, have thought Seiko as being like a low end watch. It's been a sturdy, good but low end watch, so it's going to be tough for people. I know people have already gotten on the board.
Yeah.
Buying what's their high end horology? It's called I forgot the name of it. I just blanked on it.
What do you look
Real expensive ones with the platinum and the Ichis and things like that.
Okay,
So you can spend $50,000 on a white gold or platinum Grand Seiko with a hand finished movement, but you got to be a serious collector. It's not broad mass appeal. But I think in the next 5 years or so, things will change for them. The last one we want to mention is something that they probably should have made an entire line out of.
Yeah.
Yeah, Breitling quietly released a reedition of the 806, which is fantastic, beautiful watch.
Probably like the nicest Breitling that ever existed is the original one.
Yeah. Well, top time in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
This is what the direction of Breitling, like
Should be.
in its entirety, should be remakes of vintage pieces.
So it's a remake of a 1959 806. They only made 1,959 pieces, which sounds like a lot of watches, but for Breitling, that's a super limited edition. I think it'll do well. I think it'll probably hold value a little bit better than the regular.
My only thing with the reissue is that I guess the price, but I mean, you're gonna
$7,900.
see them in the real market. Go for less than that, but you can go get the original one.
Yeah,
and have a nice piece. For
$5
much
grand
less.
probably,
Yeah,
right?
like
4 or 5
$6 grand.
But it's nice. Either way, I think this is the direction that the brand needs to go in.
But there's certainly a subsector of people that love the look of that, but don't want to worry about a vintage watch. They want something with an in-house movement. They want something with a warranty, which makes sense. It's a cool piece. This is what I would have liked to seen. Like all of the 8s, the Navitimer 8s should have never happened. This should have been the natural course
100%.
of Brightline.
Agreed. But, all right. Anything else from Basel? So we're just waiting for Omega. Come on, guys. Come on.
I think they sent it over, but the messenger got lost or something. I don't know.
It's a great joke there. So, all right. So that's kind of our.
I was very upset, or I would say disappointed.
Yeah.
That I woke up this morning and there wasn't like a sneak attack of some drops
From Rolex.
Yeah, I thought for sure with what we got out of a couple brands.
Sure.
That I was going to wake up this morning and see like
bracelet.
2 hot watches, but didn't
almost released a new bracelet.
Yeah, nobody cares about that.
Well, that's okay.
That reissue of a stretchy of your great grandfather's stretchy bracelet.
Dude, my great grandfather probably liked that one. All right. Nothing dropped while we've been on the show, so we're going to go ahead and close it down. So, if you remember to, please subscribe. Please follow us on Instagram. Check us out on Facebook. You can text us. Our phone numbers are on the screen. You can throw them up again? There they are.
There you go.
Call or text us. You can email us too. If we don't reply, that means that we read your email. Maybe we like that email.
Too long, didn't read.
Too long. Maybe it didn't warrant a response. That's fine as well. Check us out on Jason's on Grindr. Okay, we're done here. All right, guys, thanks for